Got that.
Well, for more on this, joining us live is former Liberal MP Jason Falinski. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What did you make of that? Do we need change?
Absolutely, we need change. I mean, Australians have now suffered a per capita recession since the end of 2022. We now have real wages back to where they were before the introduction of the Fair Work Act. We've got crony capitalism everywhere we look, with Labor handing out favours to mates and friends and donors. Yeah, if this keeps going, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Do you agree with what Angus Taylor was saying in terms of their spending is at a 40-year high and they're being $1 trillion debt?
Yeah, look, the problem is not taxes, the problem is spending, because spending is either a tax today or twice the tax tomorrow. And under this government, you have seen spending massively out of control. And that's why productivity is going backwards, that's why your living standards are going down, that's why inflation is high. Look, there's only one place that inflation comes from, and that is Canberra. And they have delivered inflation over and over again, and we're all worse off because of it.
But when they were speaking about we need change, wouldn't you say change has occurred in regards to people voting for parties like One Nation?
So in Australian politics, there's the politics of distribution and grievance. So you've got something I want, I'm going to vote for that party that's going to take it off you and give it to me. One Nation and the Labor Party are the same. It's not the answer that Australia needs at the moment. It's not the answer that most Australians are looking for. What we want is a policy of abundance where we can grow the pie so there's more to go around for everyone. And that's what Angus is trying to say. That's the message he's trying to get across, and it's the message that Australians want to hear.
Is that what Community Strong is wanting? We've got Zali Steggall on next hour.
Well, look, it's funny. They say in politics that the key to success is authenticity. If you can fake that, you've got it made. How a political movement that was founded on the idea that all the problems in Australian politics is because of political parties, and what we needed was independents that would represent their communities and only their communities, can turn around and then form a political party, I don't see how they can remain authentic.
You mentioned with One Nation that is potentially not the answer, but, I mean, there's polls after polls. This is not what people call a protest, potentially. We've got a long way to the elections, but if you look at the polling from today's Australian, we're looking at Victoria in particular. Yeah. They're leading the charge.
Yeah, look, that Victorian poll surprised me because Jess Wilson is doing such a great job and Jacinta Allen is doing such a horrible job. So I suspect that's a reflection on federal politics rather than state politics. But yeah, people are at the moment framed in the mind of the way that the Labor Party is distributing resources, forcibly taking things from people and giving it to their mates and donors, that sort of cronyism that they're seeing. They've had enough of it. And One Nation has directly attacked that. But the issue is, in their hearts, people know that's not the answer. The answer is actually about growing.
How do you know that they know it's not the answer?
Because we had a person called Ronald Reagan and we had a person called Margaret Thatcher, and because history has shown us that when communities do best, when countries do best, when people do best, it's when they have political parties that are focused on giving power back to individuals, their families and their communities, and when they're actually focused on growing the pie, not the politics of envy, which is where we are at the moment.
But would you argue that we're in a huge amount of change? Just speaking to John O'Kersey in Washington, talking about AI and the Industrial Revolution, like this is a time that we are not going to experience for a long time. We've just had COVID, obviously. There's been huge change. There's more diverseness with, TV, platforms, you name it. We can go on and on and on. So is this potentially breaking the trend that you're talking about?
So the history of the world is that innovation continues to happen and it happens at a faster pace. And take Sky News. More people watch Sky News on YouTube, especially in the United States.
About to be News 24.
About to be News 24, no complaint.
Yep.
Then they watch it on traditional cable. That is not something that News would have imagined, Sky would have imagined even 5 years ago. Then you've got what SpaceX is doing, then you've got AI. What we do know about history is that all these things move the frontier of human capability and capacity out, and that creates a lot more work that's a lot more interesting. So you don't have people standing on assembly lines anymore, putting screws in things. Machines do that, and we do a lot more thinking work, and that's about to become even
a great analogy. And could you say then the major parties are the old networks and YouTube is a One Nation or
during
Hatter or Community Strong?
Can you
Who
imagine?
knows?
Can you imagine Australia run by Bob Catter? It would be a lot more fun. Yeah, that's right. So I think the answer to that is that ultimately what these new technologies do is they disrupt, then they become normalised, and then we actually, as a community or as a country, get used to that new format. I think the two political parties that we have in Australia have, by and large, served the country incredibly well. I know a lot of people disagree with that at the moment, but they've created a lot of stability. They've managed to bring consensus to the country with a lot of different views. So that's important, I think.
Another really interesting thing that I've been noticing speaking to people, I'm sure many people would also agree, that gone are the days where you never spoke about politics, money or religion, but people are generally not afraid to say they vote for One Nation, for example, and then used to vote for Liberal, or they vote for Liberal, whoever it is.
Yeah.
Do you see that they're talking more about politics and who they are voting for? But you've got to look at the online aspect as well.
Yeah.
You know, the algorithms are going to, push you with siloing whatever you choose. But regardless of that, we're seeing it all the time. We're hearing kids talking about politics. Maybe it's not exactly what they might need to hear, but it's being spoken about.
Yeah, it's people, particularly the millennial generation, really took up politics as part of their identity. That's not unique. Youth has always driven change in political systems, and you've seen that throughout the ages, 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. So I think that it's not unique. I think the way that it's getting expressed or is able to be expressed online is creating a whole bunch of sense of communities. The part that it doesn't worry me so much, but the part that is new to all of this is at the fringes of that debate, where a lot of polarisation happens, has always been somewhat segmented and not paid a lot of attention to. Because of the platforms that we've created, they've obviously they can reach a lot more people than they used to. The best case of that, in my view, is Andrew Tate. I think in previous eras, Andrew Tate would have had very little reach, but in a world of YouTube and TikTok, he's managed to get into a lot of people's feeds.
Yeah, no, interesting points. And then we've got deep fakes and more AI to look out for. And
yes, we won't be looking at people anymore. We'll be looking at, AI versions of those people.
Who knows? But yes. Interesting chat. Great to see you. Thank you so much, Jason. Do stay with us. Coming up after the break. There we are. We are standing by to take you live to Mount Rushmore, where US President Donald Trump is going to be speaking very shortly on the eve of America's 250th year of independence. Back shortly.